And then we will move right on to our board showcase.
Well, I'm extremely excited to introduce to you our new community ed director, Brian Juleson. He is a longtime resident of Princeton, and he's had many professional successes in his career, and I think we're really blessed to have him. And I want Brian to make sure that you know this and hear this from me, and I've told other people this, is that just in the short period of time here, extremely impressed with his performance, really doing some strong work. So we're excited to have him and community ed here to share some spotlight and focus on that department. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Jolson and I'm the new community ed director. I've got about 2 weeks under my belt, and we're trying to get a lot of things done. I'm excited to be back in the district where it all started back in 2002 when I was a teacher here, and excited to be back. We have had some changes in our department. One of our coordinators has left, and we are in the process of interviewing for that position now. We had some great candidates, and we're working through that process this week, and hopefully to make an offer later this week. We do still have Stephanie Mindendorf as our early childhood coordinator, and she's going to be actually here on August 2nd at the school board meeting to do a similar showcase on our early childhood program. We are currently in the process of putting together a fall catalog. We have a number of new programs that we're looking to start up and reach out to different community members and groups that maybe we haven't worked with in the past. And so we sent out an email to all our staff, and we're reaching out to people that have worked with us in the past and trying to get past this post-COVID era a little bit and bring some programming back that maybe we lost during that time. Currently this summer, we are offering over 80 programs. And with that, we have about 1,500 students and adults that we are impacting with that. And that doesn't include our close to 200 students that are in our Tiger Club program. So all those numbers have really jumped this summer, and we hope to keep that momentum going for the upcoming school year. Tonight, I asked one of our programs to come. Hannah Jensen and our drama team have been doing an outstanding job for many years, and she's going to be coming and sharing with you Shrek Junior. And they do 2 camps. They do one in June with a final performance end of June, and then they're doing their second camp right now. And hopefully I'm not stealing any of her thunder, but on Friday night at 7 o'clock in the PAC is their next performance. So I asked her to come and speak to that. Her and her staff do just a fabulous job working with a number of kids through multiple grades. And with that, I'm gonna have Hannah come up, and she's got a little presentation for you.
Well, there we go. Come on now. Is this what you wanted?
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, I just joined the Zoom meeting and I have it on my computer.
All right, sounds good.
So if you just want to tell me to go up or down.
Will do. Hello, thank you for your time. I'm Hannah Jensen. I have been the head artistic director since 2016, I believe, of Drama Camp, the very same program that I got started in first grade. And this year we are doing Shrek the Musical Junior. Scroll down. What is Drama Camp? Drama Camp is a workshop experience that works on singing, acting, dancing, building relationships, and most importantly, getting out of our comfort zones. Drama Camp serves around 100 students every single summer from Princeton, Zimmerman, Elk River, a whole surrounding area. I believe the farthest I've had drive is from Onamia. So we are very excited about that. I tried to find some group pictures from the last few years, and the best I could do was from 2016. In this photo, you can see 3 of our current staffers, Justin Bonacera, Alex Franisel, and Gracie Imholt. The next year we did Aladdin Jr. There you can find 2 of our staffers again. Go ahead. Then we had Willy Wonka Jr., which was Alex's last year, and our new staffer, Emily Lubinow. It was her first and last year being a drama camper. We then did Mulan Junior in 2019. We then took a 2-year intermission due to COVID, and we were back again with Shrek Junior. Something unique to our program is that we have a buddy system. Our first through third grade friends join us in the mornings on the second weekend, where they are given an older student to be their buddy. This older student acts as their guide, helps them know what to do, where to be, and is just a general friend. This creates some lifelong relationships. Pictured is our staffer, Gracie Imholt, before her last performance, hugging her buddy. That was her buddy for about 3 years. Pictured there is Lily Enright, who is going into 8th grade. And down below, we have a video of her as Donkey in this June's last performance.
Okay, so I better,
Yeah, that's good. We can go to the next one.
It's usually without the feedback.
Right.
Okay.
Drama Camp is full of new opportunities for our younger students and our older students. PHS Junior Pau Valdiviso Zagata approached me since there's no full-time PAC manager. He was looking for some guidance to learn about our technical booth with the sound and the lights. So I taught him everything that I have learned from Mr. Richard Philipper. He is in a course with NYU, New York University, no big deal. And he's learning about film because that is the field that he is hoping to go into once he graduates from Princeton High School. Go ahead. Drama Camp is also the main feeder for Princeton High School's fall production. It has become a little bit of a tradition where the drama campers take a group photo every single production. So here are the last 3 productions that I have been a part of as the director's team. Addams Family in 2018. Our drama campers featured in Meet Me in St. Louis in 2019. And this past fall with Shrek the Musical. And that's something that I'm just so proud of. These students pictured here are the leaders in our school. They're the NHS president, the student council president, and all this leadership really leads into our community, and it all starts, and I'm so proud to have just a tiny bit of it starting in drama camp. So much so that our students every single summer take on the responsibility and choreograph one of the songs. So here's our finale, the finale of this presentation from our June session from Shrek Musical, choreographed by our campers.
okay. Is there a way for me to do this to not get feedback?
No, we had to play it out of the other machine. The other computer. But we can see their choreography.
Yes. Yeah, so we got put them in groups, they make their own choreography, they present it to each other, and then we mash it all together at the end. And it's something that they get to present to their parents and say, hey, I did that. I showed our teachers that. That was my idea. So it's taking ownership in their own production.
Awesome. And now there's still performances, correct?
One more performance, Friday at 7 o'clock. Yep,
And that's Shrek Junior.
Shrek Junior. Yeah.
This is the Shrek.
And tickets go to family members, but if the
Yeah.
general public want to come, we have some
Yes.
seating available.
Tickets out the door, and they're free.
Wow.
The end, which is what they just sang.
Well, I know my kids really love drama camp, so I got 2 in it right now, and they just absolutely love it. Brody was too cool for it this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Allison was, she's going into 9th grade, she's like, I have to do it, it's my last year. So, yeah, she's
We're
in it
very
right now.
thankful for her. She's being a leader.
Good.
That's awesome.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, nice job. Any other questions? Any other general questions for community ed?
Do you get the costumes and the sets like, or do you just kind of?
I build them and I put them together.
You do that.
Mhm.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Not only does she do that, she also makes lunches for the kids, because we had some issues with, originally, we were hoping to be able to provide lunches at the high school. When we were only doing it at the primary, we weren't able to provide transportation, so Hannah took it upon herself to make some lunches for some families that needed lunches. And so she does a tremendous job for our students and our families and our community.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item is citizen comments. I'm assuming there is none on that sheet back there. We'll move on to board member committee reports. And we'll start with Eric.
I just had the finance committee before tonight's meeting. So,
Chad,
And I had the finance meeting with them.
Finance.
Ron?
No meetings this past time.
All I had was agenda planning too, I think. Since our board meetings. We don't have a student council member, so superintendent report.
Very different summer this summer compared to the last two summers without having COVID planning. And then also there's no referendum this coming fall, so it's very different. It's a little bit slower, but that gives us a lot of time to work through quite a few other things. I've been spending some time with Jessica and teaching and learning in terms of the progress that we're making on our curriculum design and our focus on literacy in our younger grades as well. So we're excited about that, gearing up for our new teacher back to school week and all of our staff development for all of our team members when they come back that week before school starts. I know it seems a little bit slower for the board because we only have one meeting in June and July, but guess what? Those days are over. We'll be right back here. We'll be right back here in 2 weeks, and then every 2 weeks from that point on. So we'll be seeing plenty of each other. Most of any other commentary I would have would be related to what we're going to be talking about on the agenda as it relates to facilities and finance moving forward. So I'll close my remarks unless there's further questions.
Questions for Ben? Thanks, Ben. We'll move on to approve our agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Motion's been made by Eric Minks, second by Chad Young. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries, agenda approved. Can I have a motion to approve the what are the June 21st board meeting minutes?
Second.
Meeting, motion's been made by Chad, seconded by Don. Any comments or questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, meeting minutes are approved. Consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
so moved.
Motion's been made by Eric Stramberg. Is there a second? Second by Eric Minks. Any comments or questions on the consent? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, consent agenda is approved. We are on to information, the abatement bond.
It should have clarified that the abatement bond is actually for parking lot projects. So we talked about this quite a while ago, about the possibility of bonding to redo our high school parking lot. Ben had lots of conversations with students regarding the design of our parking lot, and if you've driven it lately, you know that it's, well, got a lot of repair issues. So we have an opportunity to bond for that through a process called abatement. And so we had Ellers run some numbers here for us. And we don't have a solid number yet on what the project would cost. So we're really looking tonight for, guidance on whether we move forward with this, and then we would come back with a more formal motion for us to continue working, but on $1 million on a $200,000 home, you'd be looking at $7
For the year.
For the whole
for
year.
the whole year, yes. So if it was 2 million, it would be about, 14. So
What's the scope of the project that we're looking at? We're looking at the entire,
Keith, I'm gonna let you speak.
We're looking at the whole
South
parking
Elementary
system
lots.
at there, the north lot especially, you guys know how bad that is, but we're looking at parking situation for staff or students, traffic flow, we're bringing in an architect to help us figure out traffic flow. It includes all the curbs, sidewalks, ADA accessibility, and of course, complete removal and replacement of that north lot and possibly the pack lot as well.
And just so there's no confusion, board, we're talking about the high school parking
Yes.
lots and then our ALC parking lots. We feel like our other primary, intermediate, and middle school are in good shape. So that's where we would focus. So we're happy to have Keith here. We also have Ryan here from ICS. I just wanted to acknowledge him in case there's any questions or anything that he wanted to add in this discussion and any other project that we have. I certainly, as your superintendent, has recommended to the finance committee that this is something that we do. This is the only thing that we have the opportunity to do these abatement bonds for is for parking lots. And therefore, we would not have to utilize long-term facility maintenance funds to do those projects. And we're all well aware that we have plenty of projects to eat up those long-term facility maintenance bonds. The parking lots are in desperate need. And also, I think I've alluded to when I've spoken to students, they feel like there are real safety issues in just the flow of that. So, we anticipate the entire thing to be analyzed from start to finish and engineered to come up with the best system that we can come up with. And,
We talked about this in finance too, and the discussion was in regards to the numbers and with how low the tax impact doesn't seem to be all that much, especially if you look at down in the agricultural homestead, non-homestead. And I think the feeling, I don't want to speak for Chad or Eric, but I think the general feeling was, why would we dip into a fund that where we have liquid dollars where we could use versus going out, and it would make more sense. And also too, we don't feel that the $1.5 million amount is enough. We would actually like to see it increase to maybe 2.5 and see what the tax impact statements would be there. Because we just don't feel that at 1.5 million, look at what we want done.
As Keith mentioned, there's a lot,
I mean, it's quite extensive. You're tearing out underneath the asphalt and everything. I mean, it's all got to be torn out and reconditioned.
Yeah.
And it depends how they do the traffic flow. We could be adding something here or something there to change the traffic flow, and it's gonna add up.
which could include, if you can visualize that high school parking lot, there's probably 3 or 4 entry points to get in. We may have to eliminate one of those entry points, you can have one way in and one way out. And when you're going down one road, you only go down one direction. Because we have a lot of people going this way and this way, and
yeah, there's a lot of confusion in there.
Yeah.
Then you throw the parents in here and they're all commenting this way, and the kids are coming out of high schools, the parents, it's a mess.
I think it'd be good to move forward and explore maybe design issues and have some sort of a ballpark idea of how much it would cost. I mean, Ryan, you might have a little bit of better idea how much it might cost, but just doesn't seem like that 1.5 million is gonna cut it.
Yeah, when you take in the whole site of the high school, the east side of the high school and reconfiguring that potentially, along with potentially the south part of it too. Yeah, 1.5 seems a little bit light on that. If it were a traditional mill and replace or reclaim and replace parking lot, then I'd say you're fine, but when we're thinking about, the logistics of the parking lot, then it changes the conversation a little bit, which is all perfectly acceptable with the abatement fund. Funding structure.
And we can reach for the stars, but we can also cut it back too as time goes on and say, well, maybe we don't need to do this at this time.
Yep.
If we're gonna do it, I'd like to see it get done right. I've almost broken 3 axles on my car coming in there. Like that. So,
Yeah, I think we all know something needs to happen there.
it's bad.
Well, I
And
try
just
to
the
drive
safety
around.
issues too.
One aspect that you might not consider with this project is it also enables some security aspect. So you could add cameras and things like that, parking lots for safety, if that was something that was of interest to, which can ultimately be a budget, buster for other considerations. So that's a scope that we want to take a look at too.
So because this is an information item, I guess unless we were to hear some opposition from the board, which I'm not hearing at this point, we would then go and pursue what kind of motion we would need to have on an action item for the board to approve us moving forward. Whether that would was one motion altogether, or if it needs to be separated into 2 motions, one to get us started on the project and 2 on the actual dollar amount. Once we have that figured out, we'll need to determine that.
Brian, how long would it take to figure out a dollar amount?
I mean, we'd have to do a couple conceptual kind of scoping exercises. So whoever in the district that would be part of that group to figure out what land looks like. Start doing some square footage and take off and get a budget together. Is that for sure? It's
The parent drivers. I don't know if that's possible, but
Somebody hit something.
to,
All right, we got a technical.
okay. The 650,000. We wouldn't necessarily be able to go much, as all technology is in prices, and that is becoming more expensive, just like everything else. Software is in technology or in capital, and even at this, we would still probably need to reduce capital and or reallocate some of it back into the unassigned area. Able, of where we're spending more than revenue coming in. We had structurally planned based on the current capital bond coming off, which is in a couple of years. But we have a pretty good fund balance of around 1.8, 1.9 for 23 next year. So is that 800,000 project, that would still leave you 9,000 fund balance, and that's an estimate. Then there's the 15-year lease levy bond that's allowable for the actual add-on structure. This be up to 2.8, but Ben said to be conservative is 2.5. $20 a year. Put
Yeah, I'm sorry, board, I don't know what's happening with this. I think it's fixed now. Alluded to. Alan. That is a budget intended for capital, although some where we can code general fund kinds of operational to if needed. A point of that is thing to do with technology, like our and owners. I think, Michelle, you have listed in the documents, I believe that you do, what the tax impact would be
yes,
for
that
a
is,
$20 million bond would be about the same as what a 2.5 would be. I think that we probably should hear from Ryan and ICS too, to see, you know, what kind of project he feels potentially we could get with a $4 to $5 million project. I don't know. I mean, it would, from the discussions we had, if I was interpreting the conversation correctly, I felt like I was hearing that it would be tight to do
Yeah.
anything of high quality or quality of value at all with those limitations of $5 million or less. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, when I was here in June, the budget that was presented was $6 million, and we were even a little bit kind of tight on that end, and so knowing that the limit kind of being reduced to 5, that would reduce the size of the overall addition and really limit any sort of capacity for furniture, fixtures, equipment, or things like that that would go into facilitating that CTE operation. So when you kind of combine those two together, I don't know if the value of a project like that would be really received that you'd expect. So it was kind of a, oof, let's maybe rethink this a little bit as opposed to kind of promote that as a great solution. Kind of went into the idea, obviously, as a great solution, but funding obviously puts us on a different path. But yeah, reducing that overall box, I think we had around 11,000 square foot box to start with. That would be reduced to probably the 8,000, if not maybe a little bit less square footage, you know, so then we're really handcuffing the ability to create that CTE space that we're hoping for.
And in those discussions, we were also even hopeful that we could utilize some of those dollars for some bathroom renovations at the high school, for some private bathroom solutions, which then, if we, you know, if that was a priority of ours, could potentially bring that $5 million down to $4 million. You know, so then we'd really only be looking at a $4 million. Unless the board said, well, we're not interested in, you know, tackling the bathroom situation. I just want to throw it on the table. If the board felt like, you know, this isn't going to be a viable option on the CTE, I would still ask you to keep the door open for consideration for some bathroom renovations at the high school and or even the middle school, to provide some additional private restroom spaces. And maybe I should ask you this too, because we can get into the weeds too big on it, but you know, how much would it cost to do bathroom? What would $1 million get us for bathroom renovations?
I'd feel real good about the high school with $1 million and probably completing what you have in mind, and that we really haven't gone into that, what that actually looks like and what the layout is. That I feel comfortable that $1 million would be able to produce, you know, a handful of spaces that would be kind of unique or non-gender specific areas. And then that ultimately reduces some LTFM stuff along the road too. So getting beyond the high school for $1 million might be tough. We're looking at other areas in the middle school or that. We have to just understand if it's creating, you know, restrooms that are similar to these out here. Okay, that's a little bit easier to say that we'd be able to do that. Some districts go with complete whole, you know, kind of restroom area renovations where they're all individual that open up into a kind of a commons area with common hand washing and things like that. So the scope of work, I guess, we'd have to really identify to see what fits Princeton and what you have a vision for. Yeah, and obviously one thing we have to consider is how many restroom units are available. The gym addition of the high school, you know, obviously has created a lot of restroom units, so hopefully we're okay there, but we can't necessarily just eliminate a couple restrooms that are multi station restrooms in the high school and reduce them to one. So if that's
Discussion on the analysis of the tax impact for the possible lease levy is attached. If you would look at that, as you see on there, the $200,000 home, the tax impact would be $20. If you go down to the egg and you see 0.22 cents, 0.33, 0.44, 0.55, just kind of keep that in your head. Because we attached what it would look like if we went out for a smaller bond, traditional bond impact. And this one was created for May of 23 because next year we have, we would have November, obviously, of 22. But I believe there's February, April, and May next year that we could also do. We would have those options should you want to look at this concept. But to do a $20 million bond, and of course, you know, we would have to pay issuance costs and things like that out of that 20 million, but that would be an impact of $20 on a $200,000 home. And if you go down and you look at the egg impact on 20 million, it starts out at 0.06, 0.09, 0.13. It would have way less of an impact on our egg area of our district. So that's, and we would go from a max of 2.8 million on a lease levy to $20 million. So for the value of a $20 a year on a home, you get way more value looking at a traditional bond. Of course, that means
Way more risk.
we have to go out to the taxpayers.
But it makes sense.
It makes sense, yes. We needed to explore the lease option and capital bonding to see what we could do. But yeah, personally, I think the 20 or 25 or 30 million makes more sense, because even at 30 million, you're looking at $30. 25 million is, well, 25, boy, those are right on 20, 25, and 30, see? I didn't realize that before.
I think the first option would actually be a financial disservice to
The first option being
the, I mean, the lease levy.
the 5 million.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Maybe
this is really
irresponsible.
good information because this kind of brings everything to light. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is when we're looking at this, you know, you're not putting in any new equipment. And these careers in the tech and the skills, the trades, they're changing. And I don't know if long range planning has even thought about it, but you know, a visit to like St. Cloud Tech, you know, because they're teaching different ways of welding and all this now in these fields. And you know, Aaron Barker is familiar with Princeton, so he's the dean there, acting dean. So I think that is a worth it, you know, explaining. You know, when Malacca did theirs, I mean, they put in a $500,000 water table where they can actually cut metal. And that's what you're using these days. You know, they're going away from a lot of this old
Good
stuff.
point.
And if you really want to beef up this current trades, we got to invest in equipment as well.
So I'll throw out an option, an idea. It is if the board is shying away from the lease levy option, so we still know that we have the obligation to take care of the future needs of our facilities and our greatest needs at the high school, that we begin immediately to start developing a communication that would go out to all households or that we can try and, you know, get to homes, in the paper, in all the different ways that we can, to be able to just share our story. You know, we have these needs. We went to the public for a referendum. It failed. The needs aren't going away. We've analyzed different options, one of which is the lease levy option. We've analyzed that in full, and this is what we would be able to do with that. The board has determined that that isn't the most respectful way for us to utilize taxpayer dollars. And we feel like the best decision is a more modest referendum to take care of needs. And that our plan is to move forward with that either in May or the following year. You know, and to try and be able to articulate kind of what you're seeing right now and appeal to people's logic. That, you know, the board has this opportunity to make this decision unilaterally right now for $2.5 million, and this is what the tax impact would be. But we feel like we can get 20 million or 25 million for the same exact, or even when you take a look at the ag, a less of a tax impact. Right, and it's a much more scaled down version of what we had gone out before. You know, and I think that we would just really need to analyze out of what we had in that proposed project, you know, what are the needs? We've identified the CTE as a major priority. But there are other major items as well. And, you know, I guess we would have to see, well, are we interested in the 20 million or 25 million? And, you know, what are the kinds of problems can we get solved with those? You know, we were talking about bathroom privacy issues, right? Well, we have some locker room issues in our district. We have our PE locker rooms down in the basement. That's not in close proximity. You know, we have supervision issues and those kinds of things. I think safety issues. Is there an opportunity for us to tackle some of those things? And, or, you know, the inadequate spaces for the weight room, you know, could you potentially tackle some of that? I don't know what that is, but maybe the CT is going to take all 20 million plus and we can't do anything else. But, you know, those things, the perfect world, we could get maybe one or two things more than just the CT.
Is there a way that, because, you know, we have discussed the lunchroom at intermediate and then needs over there with that. Is there a way that, you know, this bond is gonna focus on this? We know there's more needs. This would be have another phase down the road.
Yeah, you know, I think
How
that's,
you sell that to, you know, we heard you the first time. We're breaking it up or doing it somehow different, or
we got all these needs, but this is, you know, we've determined that $20 million is the dollar amount we can't go more than, or, you know, I don't want to pigeonhole us to that, but because it might be 25 million. But, you know, I guess at least in that same ballpark of what you have the ability to do right now is the 2.5 million. What's that tax impact? I think we just need to be straight up with people is, yeah, these things aren't going to get done. But we got to take care of these things right now.
Prioritize.
Yeah.
and I think that's gotta be a pitch in our selling as well.
Mhm.
You know, we do have all these needs. We're starting with this bucket.
Well, you know, what, is there a dollar amount here in terms of the tax impact that you feel you know, that you want us to have as a starting point, or do you want us to try and put something together? Well, this is what 20 million will get you, this is what 25 million will get you, and this is what 30 million will get you.
Well, people right
We
now,
know
know
what
it's 25.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Well, we'd want, for sure, I would think, we would want to make sure that we get the career technical ed area up to snuff. I mean, that would be, for me, that would be number one priority.
So put together a plan, okay, if we're not gonna cut any corners, we wanna have a high quality
Yes.
career technical ed area.
Yeah.
And design that with the equipment and, you know, what we're gonna need. What is that gonna look like and what is that gonna cost us? That's a starting point.
Yep.
How do you feel about me working to start developing a communication to go out to the public on this? Or is it that, are we too early to do that?
I'd like to see numbers and stuff, what we're thinking first.
Okay.
Because as soon as that gets out,
Good questions.
yeah,
Details.
Yeah, for sure. People want to know.
It's good to have those details first.
Well, just so you know, that's kind of on my mind is in terms of how can we bring our community along with us on the journey of, you know, telling the story of where we're at. And, you know, some people will listen and, you know, a lot of people won't look at it, but at least we can continue to be transparent about that. And if people do come down the line and say, well, I didn't hear anything about that, at least we can point to this, these are the communications that we put out. But when the time comes for that, I certainly will not put anything out until I send that to you in some draft forms to get feedback and those kinds of things. So.
Anything else we need to go over with the long-range planning? Was that it?
Well, I guess I'm hearing that we're not going to bring forward as an action item the lease levy. Okay. I'm wondering if the board could give me direction, would be okay with us pursuing moving forward with some plans for some bathroom renovations at the high school. And potentially bringing forward a plan, you know, at moving that process forward. And then at the same time, then working with ICS and Wold on what you asked for, on a high quality career technical ed space.
Yeah.
Is that
Sounds
okay?
reasonable to
Yeah.
me, yeah.
Okay. Okay with that? All right.
Of course he is.
You okay with that?
All right, then we get to move on to first reading of policies. Dawn.
So in the summary changes, everything is noted. A lot of these we're just bringing up to MSBA standards, so.
Okay, any questions for Dawn on those first reading? Those will be on our August 2nd board meeting for second reading then. Then we move on to continuous improvement plan goals.
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to share with you, there was a couple of changes that we're recommending that we put forward in our, when we work administratively and with some of our leadership teams. And I guess we just want, basically it's the same document, but we did add some language to reflect that we feel it's important to be an environment that's free of discrimination and racism. We didn't have much in our continuous improvement plan that reflects that. And that is something that that it was added on the climate and culture, where it just explains optimal teaching and learning environment that's free of discrimination and racism. And I believe that language was added also under a bullet under that, which said create a school environment where students feel safe, respected, and a sense of belonging that is free of discrimination and racism. And that's just something that we feel strongly about, especially in the world that we live in. And we feel it's important to have that recognized and reflected in our continuous improvement plan, which is really the Bible for which what we say we're going to do, right? And if we don't say it's important to us, people may not think it is important to us. And I will tell you that some people don't think it's important to us in Princeton. And I think that from a school district perspective and the board perspective, we need to have it, I guess, embedded in our document that says what is important to us. So, those are the only changes that we added, because quite honestly, everything in here, it's an ongoing process, and we're on a continuum of evolving under the student learning and student achievement piece. The curriculum is hugely important. We feel like that cannot leave our continuous improvement plan. We're finally making progress with that, and we have a long ways to go. The Princeton paradigm is just that continual progress as it relates to when this first started. They called it the Marzano work. But it's just our instructional methodology of utilizing best practices in the classroom, and continuing to hone our craft there, and then also continuing that focus on literacy and reading, writing, thinking, and speaking. So we didn't feel like we needed to deviate from our plan as it relates to student learning. Certainly there's more than that, but you can't have, if we talked about every single thing that we do, we'd have a book, right? But these are the things that we try and use common language on that say that these are our priority items that we want to focus on. We feel like, again, that the climate and culture piece is hugely important, because for student learning to occur, and you all were students yourself, so you knew that you couldn't learn if you felt like you didn't belong, or you felt disrespected, or you felt like someone called you a name in the hallway. It's hard to go buckle up in the classroom and be like in the zone with the teacher, right? So I mean, those are things that we really just need to focus on. Yeah, we're an institution of learning, but learning can't occur if we don't have a safe or respectful environment where students feel like they belong. So we need to be really intentional about that. The continuity across the schools, that's really improved. We almost thought about taking that out, but we feel like that still needs to be there. Several years ago, we kind of had each site kind of doing their own thing. We thought it was really important to have consistency and continuity in the scope of sequence and what we do across our system, and that's really improved. The social emotional CASEL standards, we think that's hugely important to continue. When we survey our employers in the community, we ask what's most important. They generally will say things that are in the CASEL standards, teamwork, being able to play nice with others, adapt with others, being empathetic to others, right? All of those things. So that's something that we want to continue. The relationship piece, we think that for students to learn, they need to feel like their teachers and people care about them and they have a relationship with them. So we want to keep that as a high priority as well. The customer service piece, we need to get regrounded in that. I think that over the years of COVID, we were all tested with that piece, and that's something I don't want to give up on as well. And then just the cultural responsiveness and diversity related educational opportunities for students, knowing that we live in a global society. And that's the same language that we had before. We talked to you a lot about the multi-tier systems of supports. That's that diamond, right? Just knowing that we need to have a system that, or work towards a system that what we give to all students meets at least 80% of their needs, which quite frankly, what we're doing isn't meeting 80% of their needs. So we need to hone our tier one instruction for behavior and academics, but then knowing that we'll have interventions that we need to have in place for students that need more and different in behavior and academics. So it's just more of an intervention support and a plan. And then we continue to have the same desired outcomes in the operation piece. And you should be all very familiar with that as well. So, just a couple small additions, I guess. And we're asked, it's not an action item, but we'll be asking you to think about this, give me feedback if you have any, and I'd like to get the board to vote on this at our next meeting. Thank you.
Any questions on that for Ben?
I have one comment. If you could
Because I know you added, could you just highlight those maybe on the next, highlight them on the sheet that we see, so we kind of see what the changes are?
Sure.
That'd be nice just to see it, if you don't mind.
Is it Google Doc in what you have, or is it a,
Google Doc or PDF, I think.
oh, it's a PDF, so if I highlighted it right now, it wouldn't show up on your PDF. Okay. Okay,
Thanks.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to the action portion of our meeting. The first item on that portion is tennis court bid for the middle school tennis court.
So we received quite a few bids. Yes, we did. Omen Contracting actually pulled their bid.
Oh, they did?
Yep, they forgot us like subcontractor.
That's why they were so low then.
That's why they were so low, yes. The next lowest bid is Minnesota Paving at 484,000. We had a nice discussion during finance about whether we accept the low bid or if we reject them all. The bid is way beyond what we expected it to come in at. We expected it more towards that 300,000 mark, about $90,000 a quart. And we opened bids and, you know, the first couple ones you think, well, maybe they're just the ones out of whack, but they were all that high. So, we were thinking about the possibility of maybe kicking the can down the road and rebidding, and also maybe looking at a different design. And then, of course, there's also the option of, if the costs are still pretty high, do we need those tennis courts? Can we operate with just the high school set? And that would require Ben, Jason, and I to have some more conversations with the people that use them on a daily basis. So finance
So
committee.
what are you guys proposing we should do here?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that part of that design was like what do you call it? The
It's a
concrete.
concrete. Ryan's can actually explain that
Floating
probably a little
concrete.
bit more.
Yeah, basically it would be taking, don't use this analogy verbatim, but taking what would be in a parking structure and putting it on top of what's existing there. So that thing can float and move and shift, but it won't break. It's just putting a piece of concrete on top of what's there. So we eliminate any removal of asphalt, any earth digging and replacement there. It's a post-tension slab of concrete, which would be the court surface. So that takes out a big significant part of the cost of trucking the earthwork part of that we're digging out 4 feet and then bringing 4 feet of fill in, which is
Dirt's
significant
expensive.
cost. So we could
It's only
eliminate
gonna
all
go
that and
up.
just have it be a
It's
concrete
just.
What's the surface now?
asphalt.
It is asphalt. So asphalt and concrete to play on, or, oh, I mean, there's no difference, there's no.
Or asset loan then.
No, I mean, well, I know that, but I
We could
mean,
just make.
They would
is
asphalt.
it better for the competitor to be on one or the other? Is it more injury prone on one or the
I'm
other?
guessing you guys still put surface over.
Yeah,
top
there
of
would still be a
concrete.
coating, a
Okay.
sports coating on top of that you'd have to maintain for years and things like that. The asphalt as far as a base, I mean, sometimes that's even used as base, right, crumbled up and recompacted and used, so wouldn't be too concerned about that. We want to make sure it's stable as possible, but it is that type of system is used in other geographic locations. We're seeing it more in Minnesota, but a concrete post-tension slab is very utilized in other places.
One of the things we talked about too is looking into the middle school tennis program to see how many kids are actually participating, and if it does make sense to move them, like Michelle said, to the high school. Rethinking the whole thing, so.
Lots of thoughts.
All right.
But for right now, I think the general consensus of the finance committee was to reject all of this.
Do we need to have a motion to reject all these, or do we just?
I'll make a motion to reject the tennis court bids as
Second.
presented.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Eric Strandberg, seconded by Eric Minks to reject all of the tennis court bids as presented. Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Start over again. Item 11B, 10-year long-term facility maintenance plan.
This is a requirement that we do every year. Is this 10-year expenditure plan and the revenue projection plan. Fine. I actually work with Ryan on this at ICS. He has a nice program now that tells him where Princeton is in the outer years regarding dollar amounts. And sometimes I think this is just an exercise, but and I do all the health and safety, you know, what we typically spend and put percentages on for the 10 years. This 10-year plan does show the extra 200,000 that the bids came in for the site projects for the tennis court, because it's better to have this a little bit higher, just in case we end up moving forward with it, than too low. So. And then the revenue spreadsheet shows our bonds on there and estimated revenue in the future. And that is created by the state of Minnesota. Ellers checks that out for us and verifies things are correct on it before we move forward with the actual motion here. And one of the corrections they made was our existing LTFM bond needed to be updated. So for the first year, the amount, as the state has people doing this as well as we do, and sometimes there's keen in errors, that kind of thing. But if you go down to line, I believe it's 60. At 56 to 62, the very last line you can run across estimated levy amounts. And then line 59, if you look at that, you can run across and you can see what our aid amounts are estimated at in the future. So every year we need to do a resolution and turn this into the state of Minnesota, so that they know that we are talking about fixing our facilities. And they, of course, want it by, you know, whether it's electrical, site, plumbing, HVAC, and we do our best to put those in each of the categories. But like for current year, which is our actual budget for the most part, you know, like the tennis court might not all be site, you know, but we just leave it all as site. It's just easier to do. Any questions?
Questions for Michelle? I will entertain a motion then to accept the 10-year long-term facility maintenance plan as presented.
So this is a resolution, Deb, so we need a roll call.
I'll make a motion to accept the 10-year LTFM plan as presented.
Okay, motion made by Eric Strandberg. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second's been made by Chad Young. Any comments or questions before we? All right, hearing none, we'll vote by roll call, starting with Don.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, resolution passes. Item 11C, revised long-term facility budget. Maintenance budget.
Okay, so this is here. The second column of it is the revised portion. If you had accepted the tennis court bids because it was $200,000, basically more than what we had budgeted, we would have needed you to approve the revised budget.
So we don't need to do it.
So I'll make a motion to reject the revised LTFM.
Gotcha.
Second.
So we don't have to bid. All right, motion's been made by Eric Stramberg, second by Eric Manx, to reject the revised long-term facility maintenance budget for 2022-23. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll vote by, we need to vote by roll call again for this one too. Is this a resolution? No. All right. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it has been rejected. Last item, second reading of policies.
Motion to accept the second reading.
Okay, motion made by Eric Minks. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eric Stramberg. Did you want to make any comments at all about them, Don, or?
All these went to the different, like activities went to the committee. And everything else, I think was pretty much the nurses, the immunization went to the nurse. Run up to MSBA standards.
Okay, thank you. All right, any more comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Second reading of policies are approved. We have no additions to the agenda. Future meetings, as Ben had told us earlier, we're almost to August. We're back to business 2 times a month. So finance and a regular board meeting August 2nd. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.
All those in favor say,
Well, I knew what they were gonna say, yeah. As soon as,
meeting's still going.
as soon as Mink sat down and goes, whoa.
Sonia, will you quit recording, please?
52 minutes to spare.